The first thing, though, I want to talk about is something I brought up on Tuesday, and it has to do with Circa Survivor. And I get it. There's only 134 entries left in Survivor, so most people listening are not still alive. But I think in going over this, when you play a future contest, or maybe you're in your own Survivor pool alive, wherever you are in the country, that something we'll talk about here will sort of inspire either currently this year or perhaps next year when you play not only a Survivor contest, but maybe a handicapping contest. So 134 entries. We did the whole breakdown on Tuesday here on the show, how many people had what left, and multiple entries. 3 people have 3, 9 have 2 left. So a grand total of 119 different people, best we can tell, are responsible for the final 134 entries of the $6 million Circa Survivor contest, the second annual, which is just unbelievable because each one of those remaining entries currently, before we head into today's 3 games, which is a week unto itself, with an intrinsic value of $44,776. Oh, man. So here's how it broke down. Let's do that first. And then I want to get into my main point here. But the Cowboys ended up, no surprise here. By the way, these percentages, if you did a deep enough dive, you probably came up with something close to this. Cowboys end up with nearly 60% of the picks today, 80 total out of the 134. Bears end up with 21. Bills end up with 15. Lions with 14. Raiders with 4. Nobody took the Saints. I believe I said that on Tuesday, that I didn't think anybody would take the Saints. Didn't really make any sense for multiple reasons. But here's what I really wanted to get at, because I brought this up, Jeff, on Tuesday, and the main point was this, that you started out with 4,080 entries. 4,080. And I don't know exactly how many of those were different human beings responsible for the 4,080, but just to give you an idea, 300 plus went with all 6, the max. So I had been saying all year, it's like, look, this notion of having, more entries than just one is really just about making people feel better. In the end, I promise you it will be just a handful that will end up their Thanksgiving, that most people just aren't that. And that's the only time it's ever going to matter, right? Because you have this 3-game situation. And so in the end, 12 people, that's it. 12 people ended up with multiple entries, 3 with 3 and 8 with 2. 3 with 3 and 8, 3 with 3 and 9 with 2, pardon me. 3 with 3 and 9 with 2, as it says on the screen here, 119 different people. So remember what I said was, what will be interesting, Jeff, mentioned this a couple days ago, what will be interesting to see is all the very few people, the very select few, the 12 that ended up getting to this week with multiple entries intact, 12 out of thousands. Would they, finally faced with Thanksgiving Day and the 3-game week, if you will, would they actually go through with the plan, right? The plan of, okay, I have multiple entries, so I should split to ensure that at least one, in the case of the 3-entry people, maybe 2, get through. Would they stick with the plan? Because I said out loud, I'm like, I don't know. There's going to be at least a few that don't. Well, you know what the answer ends up being, Jeffrey Parlay? Of the 12 who have multiple entries, you know how many of those 12 stuck to the plan of splitting?
Go ahead.
1. And the only reason that entry did, one of the 3s, is because they didn't have Buffalo or Dallas left. So while they got 3 through, they had already burned those 2, the biggest favorites on the board today. So they went with 2 Chicago and 1 Detroit. So really, had that person not been in that little pickle of not having Buffalo and Dallas, it would have been the null set. It would have been 0 out of 12 to actually stick with the plan. I cannot stress enough how a little thing like that makes this game so fascinating. Even for someone who's already been knocked out like myself, that's what makes all of sports betting so fascinating. Because essentially, people, they can bring themselves, so basically with the $44,000 $776 intrinsic value, $44,776 intrinsic value to every one of these entries, you can't bring yourself, they couldn't bring themselves to minimize the chance of advancing a nearly $45,000 chit, even for the chance of vastly increasing their chance at winning millions, which is precisely what I alluded to on Tuesday. There's a mantra that people in Wall Street trading floors use, and it's precisely what's happened here, which is plan your trade. You can plan your trade, but then you often trade your plan. And that's exactly what's happened here. So this is going to be fascinating today because no one, with the exception of the one person who kind of was forced into it, ended up doing the split thing to guarantee an advancement. It's amazing. The human element gets involved in this kind of thing, and I find that endlessly fascinating with Survivor. So that's the story today, and we'll see how many are left after today, how many entries. And then they've got the gauntlet. This is a two-pronged gauntlet because Sunday's harder than today in many respects. Sunday, the biggest favorite on the board is the New England Patriots as a 6-point favorite, thereabouts. 5.5, 6.5, but 6 consensus favorite over the Tennessee Titans. And the only other one that's above 3.5 is still Baltimore. Baltimore is the only other one. They are a 4.5-point favorite. By the way, New England up to 7 now. Let me just say that. I'm seeing 7s all over the place. Baltimore now, I mean, really, they've fallen behind. That's not even true anymore. It's Cincinnati as a 4-point favorite over Pittsburgh as the biggest other favorite on the board on Sunday. So that's it. Besides the New England-Tennessee game, only one is above 3.5. And that is Cincinnati at 4. Baltimore's 3.5. Everything else, 3 and lower, which is incredible, even extending into Monday night. Wow. Good luck to all of you. Should be interesting. But I can't get enough of how nobody... Now, does that surprise you that nobody did it in the end? Because that's exactly what I was anticipating. I was like, there's going to be a few. They're not going to do the split thing. Nobody, dude. Nobody. They couldn't bring themselves to do it.
I'm going to say good for everyone to not split, actually.
Is it?
Well, we'll find out in a few hours.
Is it, though?
But look, Gil.
Plan your trade. Don't trade your plan.
Here's what I'll tell you, though. Assuming that the 3 favorites come home, we lose 14 here. Because there were 14 between Detroit and the Raiders, which would put us at 120. We'll do that for the sake of this. I'm going to revise my number down. Revise my number up a little bit from the other day, which was 34.5. I'm going to revise it up, assuming the 3 favorites advance to 40 and a half entries make it through Sunday, which I don't think changes your calculus at all.
Under.
If any of the favorites lose, then obviously that number is going way down, and we're looking at probably under 25 by the end of the weekend.
It's amazing. So of the people with 3, I told you about the one that had 2 with the Bears, 1 with the Lions. They're the only one who did the Splitsville thing, and they were forced to because they didn't have Buffalo or Dallas. Another one had Cowboys on all 3. Another one went Cowboys, Bills, Bears. We talked about that was probably the number 1 power-ranked person who had all the favorites available today, and they did exactly what we thought they would do. They went with all the favorites. Then of the 2s, one is Cowboys, one is Lions, Raiders, one is Lions, Cowboys, one is Cowboys, Cowboys, Bills, Raiders, Bears, Bills, Cowboys, Bears, Cowboys. So the one that had the Lions and the Raiders, God bless that person. Hey, man, this is going to be fascinating today. Jeff, when we went to break, I did a thought exercise with young Jeffrey Parlay. Jeff, you have no choice but to accept the thought exercise challenge. And once again, the thought exercise is simply this. There's 134 entries left in Survivor. Let's say that you knew that 133 of them were taking Dallas, right? And you have said that you don't think Las Vegas has any chance of winning. Do you take Las Vegas?
No.
Oh. All right. Okay.
That was not the answer you were looking for.
That was not the answer I was looking for. No. Because okay, so think about it this way. This is what makes this fascinating. Because this is why like Survivor is such an interesting reflection of human thought and the human condition. Again, let's get back to what we were talking about earlier. the 11, oh no, what was it? 12, pardon me. The 12 people had multiple entries, right? They were the lucky 12 that ended up with the multiple entries. You could buy as many as 6. Some people bought 6. Over 300 did. Some people got 5. Some got 4. Some got 3. Some got 2. But only 12 people ended up with multiple entries, 3 with 3, 8, and 9 with 2. And in the end, here we are, Thanksgiving, right? Their ability to split and guarantee one forward. Not a single one of them, with the exception of one who kind of was forced into it, decided to split and guarantee they would go through. Only one of them would end at Buffalo and Dallas, with 3 ends up splitting, 2 on Chicago and 1 on Detroit. But it's what I said earlier. You plan your trade, right? Planning your trade, really easy. Trading your plan, very difficult. Very difficult for human beings to be able to do that part of it. So here's the thing. Here's what I would say, Jeff. So there are 80. So in reality, 80 of 84 people that took a side in the Dallas-Vegas game in Survivor took the Cowboys. 80 of 84. So 95%. The Cowboys, who by the money line, if you convert the money line to a win percentage, the Cowboys have a 75% chance of winning this game on the money line, right? It equates to about a 75% chance of winning. But 95% of the participants who picked that game ended up going with the Dallas Cowboys. So to me, if you had one pick, if you had one entry today left, let's forget the 3s and the 2s for a second. If you had one entry left in Survivor, it would be so tempting to take Las Vegas. That's the most optimal pick there is. It's by far the most optimal pick, even as is. Now, I gave you the most ridiculous example, which is, what if 133 out of 134 had Dallas, and you still said, you're like, I'm not taking Las Vegas. Let's just take it as it is. 80 of 84 in this one game took the Cowboys. I think if you have one entry and you have Las Vegas, and pretty much everybody had Las Vegas available to them, that is still the most optimal pick, because you have to ask yourself, is your goal to go 20-0, or is your goal to win the most money? Right? Is your goal to go 20-0, or are you trying to win this thing with as much money as possible? Because think about, and one last way to think about it is, how many times in life, right? Like here, you get a chance. So basically, otherwise put, you're getting a chance here to isolate 2/3 of your remaining opponents, right? Roughly 80 of 134. You're getting a chance to isolate roughly 2/3 of your remaining opponents. I mean, that's got to be your best chance in life to win $6 million, isn't it? How many chances otherwise you get that? And the example I gave you, I said 133. Jeff, you would have $6 million on the table for you today. And you were like, nah, I don't think so. I find all that stuff fascinating, man.
I don't know. The biggest thing is, if I were to get eliminated from getting this far in a year where this has been the wackiest 4-week stretch that I can remember in league since watching the league.
Right.
And I went out because, to me, that's getting a little too cute going with the Raiders.
You're falling too much in love with the journey.
No, I understand. I
Right.
understand that's the argument against of what I'm of what I'm saying.
Right.
Now, the other interesting thing, because you look at the way that the entries, let's just take today's entries, for example.
Mm-hmm.
No one picked New Orleans today.
Nobody.
Yep. If I were going to go like down a track where, well, let's go against the herd a little bit, because I know Buffalo was significantly less entries than Dallas. I'm not going to use New Orleans again. Buffalo would knock out about 10% of the field, and I don't even have to worry about relying on an 8-point underdog having to win on the road against a team that I think is the best offense in football when at full strength. I know Amari Cooper's not there. I know CeeDee Lamb still needs to get cleared. But if I were going to go against the herd today, I would just say, you know what? Oh, it'd have been the only New Orleans entry today.
Are your parents listening? Lisa, and Craig, are they listening today?
I have no idea.
I would like to just plead to them. I was like, listen, your son, I just gave your son a scenario where it's $6 million. It would be all his today on the line, the 133 on Dallas, and he still wouldn't take the opportunity to do it. This is why so many years ago I decided to do a sports betting podcast, right? 10, 11 years ago now, where there were no podcasts, right? I was one of the early adopters of podcasts. The reason that first of all, I was obsessed with sports betting all my life, right? But the psychology of it is endlessly fascinating to me, because this is sort of a reflection of the human condition, right? We're just using it through the lens of Survivor. But essentially, let's say you're in another walk of life. Let's say you're still in sports, Jeff. Let's say you're not in sports. Whatever you're doing in your life, and these moments present themselves to you, and are in and this is not just you. I'm not picking on you, right? Because I'm saying that's what I was saying earlier. It's so difficult, right, to be able to click your brain into a different mode of thinking at the moment. Like, well, I was going to do this. Am I going to execute on that? Or am I going to recognize an opportunity that is about to present itself, right? There's game theory involved. Am I going to recognize the opportunity that's about to present itself? And so I'm going to play it to win here. I'm going to play it as optimally as possible, as opposed to trying to go 20-0 and then splitting it 40 ways. Maybe, and I'm not making a judgment. Maybe for some people that might be the way to do it. That's fine. That's fine. But I'm just saying for it would be awfully difficult for me, says a guy who got eliminated 3 weeks ago, right? And would have been, quite frankly, eliminated the next week also. Unlike last year, right? Last year, the only loss I had and would have had, because there's only 3 weeks left and I knew who I was going to pick and they all won, was that Rams game at the Jets. This year, I would have been bounced out a few times. But if I were here now and I only had one, it's different if you have multiple, right? But if I only had one, 4 people went with the Raiders. 4 people. And to me, if you had, and by the way, some of those 4 were the multiple entries people, so it's not just the one. So how many of the multiples went with the Raiders? The answer is 2. 2 were multiples. So 2 people with single entries, to me, 2 played this perfectly. Just my opinion. So shout out to those 2 people, whoever you are out there. You guys or gals, you guys were thinking the best to me. I don't know if it'll end up. I don't know if that means you win, but to me, if you're playing this game theory wise, that's the way to play it.
Well, the fun scenario would be the first game ties, the Raiders win, and the Saints win, and we're down to 4.
That's right. That's right. It ties, everybody loses. So imagine if like 3-4 hours from now, like, and we're going overtime in Detroit. People are gonna be like, oh no. It's just going to be. But anyway, there's only 35 people in there, 35 entries at the end. The big thing, obviously, is everything surrounding the Cowboys today. That's clearly the majority. Again, almost 60% of the people on the Cowboys in Circa Survivor, 80 of the remaining 134. So anyway, it's a fascinating thought exercise. And again, congratulations to Derek Stevens, Mike Palm, and crew over there at Circa, because I'd be the first person to say, hey, man, I'll talk about this every week I'm in it, but as soon as I'm out of it, man, I'm going to lose interest in this. I haven't lost one iota of interest in it because of how interesting it is, how people navigate through it. Sometimes they play it what I would say optimally, other times they don't, and people would take their, like, yeah, you know what, Gill, I do want to go 20-0. I don't care if I split it 50 ways. All right. Do you?